Hello and welcome. Today we are going to talk about the first cabinet rap battle from Hamilton. Guess I've been kind of on a bit of a Hamilton kick recently. So we are going to look at just how intricate these lyrics are. They're so carefully crafted. It's really interesting to see all the connections, not only line to line, which we'll be taking a deep dive into, but also like how the beginning can connect to the end and the references made throughout. We're not going to go over every line in the song, though. We're just going to look at the main rap battle between Jefferson and Hamilton. So with that, I'm Dr. Zach. Grab a cup of tea and join me. Here are the lyrics to Cabinet Battle number 1. And we are going to start with Jefferson. Right? So there's a little bit of preamble before this, but we're just going to start right where Jefferson starts speaking. So life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's a quote, right, from the Declaration of Independence. And it makes for really good prose, has kind of a powerful punch, but how does it work with a rhythm? Well, you can kind of make it work with like a strong weak pattern. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? We kind of have some strong, weak stuff. Now, with like liberty, that's not how you would really say it, but you can kind of make it work that way. And in fact, that's how this line is set in the song. It's like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? So if you notice, happiness, we kind of emphasize the last bit of happiness, even though really it's the first syllable that should be the most emphasized. But if we're doing that strong, weak kind of alteration, happiness, right? We can kind of massage it that way. And then the next line is, we fought for these ideals we should and settle for less, right? We fought for these ideals we shouldn't settle for less. So more or less, we have the strong, weak pattern again. And how it's set with the previous line, right? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We fought for these ideals we shouldn't settle for less, right? It's very consistent rhythm. So that's really what's kind of holding this together, is the fact that each syllable is part of this rhythm that just kind of drives forward. Then we have the next line. These are wise words, enterprising men quote 'em. Don't act surprised, you guys, cause I wrote 'em. Ow. So with this one, there's a few interesting things that happen. One, the rhythm kind of changes up, right? We don't really get that consistent rhythm anymore. Like the last line especially, don't act surprised, you guys, cause I wrote them, right? Very syncopated, very groovy. And this helps kind of make that point, right? This is kind of like the humble brag here at the end. So he's syncopating the words to make that point really kind of profound. Now, we have a nice little rhyme here internally between wise and enterprising men quote them. This is something that we're going to see a lot in this rap, is that there are internal rhymes. So then how the artist emphasizes this is by stretching the rhythm on enterprising men. These are wise words, enterprising men quote 'em, right? He holds that out because it's really helping to emphasize what the rhyme is there. Otherwise, it'd be, these are wise words, enterprising men quote 'em, right? Which you don't get that same kind of emphasis. And then we have don't act surprised. There's another rhyme. You guys, again, guys, because I wrote them. We have all of these kind of internal rhymes. Wise, enterprising, surprised, guys. And then we have our end rhymes, which are different. Quote them and wrote them. So really, the rhyme here is between quote and wrote. And then the M, right, is just kind of what comes after. So this is kind of like, it's like a 2-syllable rhyme between 2 different words. This can help you get out of some like lyric ruts sometimes, because you want to maybe end 2 lines with the same word, but then you can try to rhyme like the word before that. And this one in particular, right, if if we didn't rhyme quote and wrote, if we were just trying to rhyme the very last syllable, it'd be something like this. These are wise words, enterprising men quote 'em. Don't act surprised, you guys, cause I made 'em. Right? It just doesn't work as well. We have the end rhyme still with M, but by doing quote and wrote, that really strengthens these two lines. And then the one other end rhyme I didn't mention here is that happiness and then less is our first kind of end rhyme there. Okay, now this beginning line is going to be important to remember because there's something that happens later that kind of references it. So let's look at this next kind of paragraph here. This one says, but Hamilton forgets. His plan would have the government assume states' debts. Now place your bets as to who that benefits. The very seat of government where Hamilton sits. All right, so where are the connections here? We have forgets, so we're rhyming gets and debts, right? Because the second syllable of forgets is the stressed one. So that's the one that we want to rhyme, is that S sound. So we get that in debts. And then we have, now place your bets, right? So here this same S sound comes back in the middle of the next line. However, the rhyme at the end is a little bit different as to who that benefits. Now we have I, right? And then this TS at the end. So what's really cool about this is Miranda added this rhyme in the middle of the third line here, so it helps the whole thing feel more connected, right? We could leave out that word and then it would still work because we have end rhyme, and then we have a new end rhyme. But by adding that little word in the middle of the third line, we now have like a little bit more coherency for the whole thing. Another interesting thing about this is that you have bets and benefits. So our stressed syllable doesn't rhyme, but we have the same beginning consonant, B and B, and we have the same S at the end. So that then kind of acts like a transition. We go from debts to bets to benefits, and it kind of helps us get into the new end rhyme. We have the very seat of government where Hamilton sits. So there's our its with fits from benefits before. That is that line. So comparing this to what came before, there's a lot more just kind of straight presentation. I mean, this is kind of where Jefferson is laying out the facts of his case. So there isn't that like humble brag that he had at the end of the first paragraph. So the rhythm stays really consistent, and the rhythm of the words follows a lot of the strong, weak kind of pattern. But let's check out this third line. So now place your bets as to who that benefits. So that as to are two weak syllables in a row. I think we could eliminate one by making this line sound like this. Now place your bets for whom that benefits. Right? Now we have alternating strong, weak, strong, weak. Let's listen to the two of them together. Now place your bets as to who that benefits. Now place your bets for who that benefits. Right? I think it might be for whom. Also, the grammar here might not be as correct as the way that Lin-Manuel Miranda did it. So if any of you know the proper grammar here, and if it's, if you can say for whom and have it make as much sense, please let me know, because I was really curious about that. I couldn't really find like a good definitive answer online. And then if we were to do this in time with the song, right? So like from the beginning with the new adjustment there, for whom that benefits. But Hamilton forgets. His plan would have the government assume states' debts. Now place your bets for whom that benefits. The very seat of government where Hamilton sits. You can kind of make it work a little bit differently. Now place your bets as for whom that benefits, as to who that benefits. So I am stretching the word whom. Maybe we should try this again. Here we go. But Hamilton forgets. His plan would have the government assume states' debts. Now place your bets as for whom that benefits. The very seat of government where Hamilton sits. Right? We have a little bit more drive there. Now place your bets as to who that benefits. This would really come down to personal preference, I think, as the composer, of how you want the rhythm to go. I would just argue that for whom that benefits, as long as it's grammatically sound, works a little bit better because it follows that same strong, weak pattern that we have kind of throughout here. So in this next paragraph, We have some cliches kind of in here, which is interesting because generally we want to avoid cliches, but we're going to talk about why in particular this works really well. So it says, oh, if the shoe fits, wear it. If New York's in debt, why should Virginia bear it? Our debts are paid, I'm afraid. Don't tax the South, 'cause we got it made in the shade. The rhymes here, right? We have, if the shoe fits, wear it. Now, fits and it don't technically rhyme perfectly because that S sound at the end is missing. But nonetheless, the vowel sound stays consistent there, which is why that's such a kind of popular saying. And then we have, why should Virginia bear it? Now, this is kind of like what we were saying before, how we have the same word at the end. So this matches this quotum rotum kind of thing with wear it, bear it, right? Then it says, our debts are paid, I'm afraid. Don't tax the South because we got it made in the shade. So we have paid, afraid, and then made and shade. So with the exception of bear it, we pretty much have an expression in every other line, right? If the shoe fits, wear it. That's an expression. Our debts are paid, I'm afraid. That is using afraid in the kind of like sorry context rather than actually describing like somebody who's scared of something. So it's kind of like an expression, right? It's kind of a different use of the word afraid. And then we have don't tax the South because we got it made in the shade. So there's our next expression. So why this works really well, I think, is because it's just the one paragraph that has all of these expressions. They're all kind of fit into one thing. I think if the song started with like, if the shoe fits, wear it, and then later we had made in the shade, it would maybe not feel quite as like clever. And we might have a way that you could construct a piece where the cliches actually form the structure for it. So maybe you like start the cliche and then you go into like original material and end with the cliche. And there's some sort of journey between those two that like makes it happen. But in this case, I think it's really effective because it's all in one paragraph here. And the cliche like made in the shade, right? The South has their debts paid because of basically their agriculture, right? And made in the shade, at least the way that I kind of process that is like the shade is coming from a tree or something, right? It's coming from something in nature. So there is kind of like this connection between the cliche and what the topic is actually about, which I think is nice, right? That's a nice way to use a cliche, is to have a little bit of a like layered meaning to it, rather than maybe this song being about like an oil rig and being like, oh, we got so much money now, we're made in the shade. Right? Then that's just really using the cliche, because an oil rig, while yes, it can provide shade, it's not that kind of shade that you would associate with like a tree, right? When you've got it made in the shade, you would expect to be like hanging out underneath a tree or something, not hanging out underneath an oil rig. So that's, just part of like using the cliche. I think it's used in an appropriate manner that is relevant to the topic at hand. So let's go on here. It says, in Virginia, we plant seeds in the ground. We create. You just want to move our money around. This financial plan is an outrageous demand, and it's too many damn pages for any man to understand. Stand with me in the land of the free, and pray to God we never see Hamilton's candidacy. Look, when Britain taxed our tea, we got frisky. Imagine what's gonna happen when you try to tax our whiskey. All right, there we go. Just flows so nicely, doesn't it? So let's start with our rhymes. We have plant seeds in the ground, move our money around, right? Pretty easy there. And then we have this financial plan is an outrageous demand, all right? So we have an internal rhyme there. And it's too many damn, there's another ass sound, pages for any man to understand. So now our internal rhymes are super thick here. Stand with me in the land of the free, and pray to God we never see Hamilton's candidacy. And then it goes on to, Britain taxed our tea, we got frisky. Imagine what's going to happen when you try to tax our whiskey. So there's our end rhymes to kind of finish it out. So this one's very interesting. Starts with ground and around, simple end rhymes at the beginning, simple end rhymes at the end, frisky and whiskey. But then in the middle, it's just really thick with rhymes all over the place, right? We have an internal rhyme in the first line, plan and demand, and then we have three in the next one, damn pages for any man to understand. Then stand with me in the land of the free, and so we have another line with three, because then it ends with candidacy. And we get back to frisky and whiskey at the end. And what's kind of interesting about this one is there's a couple of places where the music breaks. That breaks here at the end of understand. And it's too many damn pages for any man to understand. And the artist has some like freedom there with the time since the music has a break. And then at the end, we get some more freedom in the time with a music break saying, imagine what's gonna happen when you try to tax our whiskey, right? So these two things are like kind of disses at Hamilton, right? Too many damn pages for any man to understand, right? The last one's actually more of kind of like a threat. Imagine what's gonna happen, you know? So these 2 points, it makes sense for the music to break, for there to be a change, because it's like an important part of Jefferson's, you know, diss against Hamilton. One rhyme that I didn't mention here is Canada-C, and the E in frisky and whiskey does also then help to tie all of that together as well. An interesting word here is gone, right? That's short for going. Imagine what's going to happen when you try to tax our whiskey. But here we have this kind of abbreviation, and it makes it work so much better with the line. Imagine what's going to happen when you try to tax our whiskey versus imagine what's going to happen when you try to tax our whiskey, right? That just makes it flow so much better. So now Hamilton gets his response. Now remember when I told you to keep that first line of Jefferson's argument in mind? This is why. It says, Thomas, that was a real nice declaration, right? So Jefferson opened with a quote from the Declaration of Independence. And now Hamilton is kind of recognizing that and turning it around on him. So a really cool connection between the opening of the two rappers. Welcome to the present, we're running a real nation. So we have nation and declaration. Would you like to join us or stay mellow, doing whatever the hell it is you do in Monticello, right? There's the rhyme for mellow and cello. Okay, so nice opening, just some end rhymes going on. The rhythm of the words kind of throughout all of this varies, so I think it's a little bit more interesting to focus on how the rhyme scheme is working and kind of how it's getting set to the music. If we assume the debts, the union gets a new line of credit, a financial diuretic. Wow, what a line. Okay, so if we assume the debts, the union gets, and this is how he stresses it in the song too. So we get this UU rhyme, and then we also get debts and gets. So again, we have that S sound and with a TS at the end that is matched in gets. A new line of credit, a financial diuretic. So also what's interesting about this is in ye old Hamilton book, where I've been drawing some sources from, Lin-Manuel Miranda mentions that he looked up the etymology of the word diuretic to make sure that it was an actual word in that time, and it turns out it was. So not only is he creating an awesome rhyme here with credit and diuretic as part of a line that already has two other rhymes going on, he made sure that the rhymes were historically accurate. Now, let's look at the next line. How do you not get it? So we have the same S sound, right? Credit, diuretic, how do you not get it? Right? Pretty cool. If we're aggressive and competitive, get it, competitive. Okay, now the vowel's changed, but it's still a kind of E vowel, right? Competitive, the union gets a boost, you'd rather give it a sedative. Then we have the next line, a civics lesson from a slaver. Hey neighbor, your debts are paid because you don't pay for labor, right? So we have a lot of internal rhymes here. We plant seeds in the South, we create. Yeah, keep ranting. We know who's really doing the planting. So we have ranting and planting at the end. Also, the music breaks here because this is a diss on Jefferson, right? So we're following that same kind of pattern. And another thing, Mr. Age of Enlightenment, don't lecture me about the war, you didn't fight in it. Right? This is a cool way of rhyming words where you take one word like enlightenment and you match multiple vowels. Fight in it, enlightenment, right? The last vowel, meant and it, doesn't quite work, but it's close enough, especially with how you would say it, that you kind of get the gist, right? So that's a good tool to use if you're ever trying to rhyme a word and you can't find just like a single word that really matches. Or like we also saw in this one where you maybe go like one word back and try to rhyme the word before the end of the line, or you might be able to actually use multiple words to rhyme to one word. Right? You think I'm frightened of you, man? We almost died in a trench while you were off getting high with the French. So there we go. There's our rhyme there. And then the man kind of relates back to like planting, ranting, that type of thing. So if we look here, we have a line that uses an internal rhyme, kind of gets a little bit of a transition into the next line too. And then we just have kind of simple end rhymes here. Then we have more internal rhymes. We have simple end rhymes. We have kind of an internal rhyme, not really, but we have a unique kind of way of rhyming, which is to use multiple words. And then we have kind of a simple end rhyme at the end. So this part of the song kind of alternates. It has simple end rhymes, which then contrast with something that's a little bit different. Usually it's more internal rhymes, but as we saw with Enlightenment and Fighting It, right, it's just a little bit something different. So it isn't just end rhyme, end rhyme, end rhyme, end rhyme all the time. Then we get to this last part that we're going to look at. It says, Thomas Jefferson, always hesitant with the president. President, there we go. Reticent, okay, so all those kind of rhyme. There isn't a plan he doesn't jettison. Again, that kind of rhymes. And then Madison, we have a near rhyme here with jettison and Madison. Says, you're as mad as a hatter, son. And then here we have the kind of near rhyme with hatter, son, Madison, right? Jettison, hatter, son. It's close. Like I said, it's not perfect, but it's close. And that's the point, is that we're kind of conserving some of these consonants and vowels to help make the whole thing sound cohesive. It says, take your medicine. All right, so that one does rhyme with jettison, sort of. T's and D's are a little bit interchangeable in the way that at least American English is spoken. Jettison, medicine, you just kind of have that stop there with the tongue to the roof of the mouth. Whereas if it was really enunciated, jettison, medicine, right? It doesn't actually rhyme. But it kind of works just with how the spoken prose is in American English. It says, damn, you're in worse shape than the national debt is in. So there you go. Another 3 words to make a rhyme with one word. Medicine, debt is in. Lots of internal rhymes. Okay, so think back too about our cliche. If you know this song at all, you know the next line where Hamilton says, I'll show you where my shoe fits. And the cliche that Jefferson said is, if the shoe fits, wear it. So now, right, that's another connection between the two arguments. And of course, at this point, the music breaks, just like we've seen before. So having that consistency with the music, having it always kind of break at a spot where the rapper is dissing the other one, helps you kind of connect and pay attention to those points and helps them kind of really sound more impactful that way. So just to recap this one, we have hesitant, president, and then reticent. This is a technique that we haven't really talked about where you rhyme the end with the beginning of the next line to really kind of connect the two together. There isn't a plan he doesn't jettison. Madison, you're as mad as a hatter, son. Take your medicine. Damn, you're in worse shape than the national debt is in. So really this is all either perfect or near perfect rhymes throughout the whole thing. And there's even rhymes within the individual lines. So really well crafted, right? There's some words that maybe like you wouldn't say jettison very often. And we have kind of another cliche here, mad as a hatter. But then adding the extra son, right, that helps tie that together. Madison, you're as mad as a hatter, son. And the cliche is used, again, cleverly, right? Because Madison, that M-A-D, he's then taking and using that as the start of the cliche. Mad as a hatter, son. So it's not just using the cliche because he thinks that the character is, in this case, Madison, is crazy. He's using it because he can make this rhyme with it, where he's using not just, the kind of thoughtless cliche, but he's actually very intentionally using the cliche in that kind of like layers aspect that I was mentioning earlier. This last kind of paragraph here, how it's so densely rhymed, all of these hesitant, president, reticent, jettison. This is the first time that we've seen this many rhymes all in a row and so much internal rhymes, which then really kind of signals the end of his rap, right? He kind of saved the most complex rhyme scheme for the very end, which is an effective tool. So to end today, I just wanted to take a look at ye old Hamilton book and read what a high schooler submitted as a poem. There are outreach programs in New York that assist schools in sending students to see Broadway shows, and in this case, there was an assignment to use a line from the show in a poem. So this student wrote a rap written for a debate on marriage equality, and it's great. It got published in this book, which is awesome. And I just want to emphasize that, like, I'm going to give some feedback. I have some critiques for it, but like, this is really well written, especially for being like a high schooler. It's good stuff. Okay. So this is how it goes. It says, "It's 2015. Can't you see? Everyone can be loved, including me. We live for the new, we live for the now, and while you are hating on gays, I say go ahead and finish your vows. You say everyone is scared, even the children. I say there's a lesson to be learned, so let's teach them. LOVE. That's what everyone wants, you and me. We have to be together and bring the peace, and join together in equality. They put a ban on gay marriage, and here I stand, ready to go with you hand in hand, because I want to be in the room where it happens." Right? And that's, of course, the line from the show, the room where it happens. And this is talking about something very different, right? Whereas, like, the room where it happens is where, like, all the decisions get made and where the power is in Hamilton. This is like, I want to be in a room where marriage equality happens. So, some good things about this, right? Like, there's some internal rhymes. They put a ban on gay marriage, and here I stand, right? Ready to go with you, hand in hand. Now, again, that's a cliche, hand in hand, but this actually does have a bit of a layer to it, because it's talking about, taking the hand of somebody that you love and walking down the aisle with them. As for the rest of it, the rhythms aren't as consistent as they could be. It's 2015, can't you see? Everyone can be loved, including me. We live for the new, we live for the now. And while you are hating on gays, I say go ahead and finish your vows. Right? There's a lot of like strong weak to it, but there's just like a strong syllable thrown in every once in a while that kind of disrupts it. But there we go. In that line that we just listened to, hating on gays, I say, right? So we have a rhyme that goes from the end of one into the beginning of the next. It is a little bit weakened because you have the I beforehand, but it's still better than something like another word there. Your vows. You say everyone is scared. All right, so we have, I guess, a little bit of a contrast here. I say go ahead and finish your vows. You say everyone is scared. And I wish there was a different word besides say in the next line. Like maybe you think or you proclaim or something like that. We could maybe find a different word just so we didn't have say and say in the beginning of both of those lines. I say there's a lesson to be learned, especially since we have I say again. It'd be cool if like I say was one unit and then what you do is like something else besides the word say. So I say there's a lesson to be learned, so let's teach them. LOVE. So this is a little bit of a strange sentence because learned in love and learned in them don't rhyme. However, I think so let's teach them is supposed to be rhyming with the previous couple lines back where it says even the children. So let's teach them, right? So it is trying to rhyme that and them is the children. So it's, I think, trying to connect those two. Then LOVE, that's what everyone wants, you and me. So rhyming E with me. We, there's again, end rhyme, beginning rhyme, have to be together and bring the peace. So me, peace, we, right? They have some rhymes there. And join together in equality. They put a ban on gay marriage and here I stand. So equality doesn't really rhyme with anything, but we did have, LOVE and me and peace. So we have three kind of end rhymes in a row. And then equality also has that E sound, even the equality, right? We actually should be rhyming one of the middle syllables. They put a ban on gay marriage and here I stand, ready to go with you hand in hand because I want to be in the room where it happens. So again, the last line, it doesn't really rhyme with anything. Happens doesn't rhyme with hand. At least has that same kind of consonant. But overall, like, I think what makes that line work and is kind of impactful is because it came from the show, right? The prompt was to write a poem about something, about a topic, and then use a line from the show. And so to like hear how that line is used, that's kind of what makes it impactful. And if everyone else, you know, who was writing this prompt, you know, was presenting their works, they would kind of come in with the expectation of, oh, what line are they going to use and how are they going to use it? So in that sense, that's where maybe that kind of cohesiveness comes from, is from the prompt, rather than, you know, having it really like tightly work with the rest of the rhymes that we have that come before. So again, great work to that high school student for writing that poem. I think overall is really nice. Had some lots of nice little techniques and different things in it. And as we saw today, there's lots of ways that you can use rhymes in your lyrics, right? We have end rhymes, we can rhyme multiple words to one word, matching the end rhyme to the beginning of another line. So lots of cool techniques. This rap battle in particular has some really cool stuff in it. It's worth a look. Look at it yourself. Try to see if you can speak the words and go follow along with the song. And it's just super fun, really well crafted. Really enjoyed talking about it today. So please remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.